back with a little bit of luck. We'll do a press conference next week. Maybe
Okay.
first start. I mean, this is baby stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this
All right.
front.
Hello, this video is going to be a little bit long, so I'm going to cut to the chase in the beginning, and then you can watch the video and come to your own judgments about what's going on here. The premise of the video is that Tyler Cohen betrayed Bernie Sanders, betrayed his viewership, betrayed the Democrats that vote for people, betray his audience on YouTube, betray his audience on X. And I'm going to lump in chorus inside this whole thing because what we have going on here is a bag of lies. It's lies, people. That's all you can take from it. I'm going to show in this video that he promised something, that he acted like it was important. And then what did he do? Sabotage Bernie. He silenced Bernie and he did a media blackout on the issue. And he didn't do what he said he was going to do. And he looked us right in the eye. He looked Bernie right in the eye. And he said, paraphrasing, "You can count on me. You can count on me to report on this issue as things happen. And you can count on me to keep my finger on the pulse and report on this to the people. You can count on me, Bernie." And he looked at us right in the eye through that lying camera lens. And he said, "You can count on me. I will be on top of this. This issue is important, okay?" And guess what happened? Not a goddamn thing. There has been a media blackout ever since that promise. Now let's get to the video. Tyler Cohen interviewed Bernie Sanders on March 8th. Brian wanted to talk about, the jobs report that just came out and attack Trump for it, which is fine. But Bernie side-railed this entire interview. He did something that wasn't expected, and Bernie opened a can of worms that Brian didn't want, wasn't expected on. And you can tell now, and I did some research afterwards, we'll get into, that Forest Group may be getting the pockets lined by the same companies that Bernie's talking about. What can we find out? Right? What do people talk about? What people don't talk about? So let's get into this interview in the beginning. And you're going to see him talk about the jobs report. And then you're going to see Bernie Sanders take a detour. He's going to go take a 90-degree turn on Brian. And guess what? This isn't one of Brian's, puff pieces that he does with establishment people.
And interview major players in the world of politics.
Content, okay? When you're out here interviewing senators or candidates for governor and you don't ask them hard questions, you don't push back on their funding, you glaze them.
Like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Beto O'Rourke, Eric Swalwell.
People like Jeffries, Schumer, Obama, where they're probably going back and forth with the questions, with the answers.
Sanders, thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
So, Senator, we got some pretty surprising news this morning as it relates to Donald Trump and the economic numbers. There was a net loss of 92,000 jobs, which means that since April, this administration has seen a net loss of jobs. There have been no new jobs added in the last 10 months of this administration, which...
How do we use Bernie the way we want to? How do we attack who we want to attack, which is Trump?
would be bad enough unto itself, even worse given the fact that Trump has branded himself the jobs president. And this is actually a recurring theme with Republican administrations. So can you speak a little bit about the chasm between what Republicans promise when they're on the campaign trail with regard to these populist fever dreams versus what they actually deliver when they're in office?
Now, Brian asked the question, he's talking about the jobs report, he's talking about Trump, how he's doing and everything. Everything's going smooth, okay? Now let's see what Brian initially says.
Well, I think what you're saying is true. The historical record is pretty clear. When Republicans control the White House, the job situation is often not good.
Now, this is where it's about to go off the rails, okay? This is where we're taking that detour that we're talking about.
One of the factors here, no one is quite certain, Brian.
Brian just jumped off the camera, and he's gonna stay jumped off the camera for a little bit. Brian shows excellent instincts when he jumps off the screen right before Bernie derails this whole entire interview. But if he had better instincts and had a network issue, or a power issue, or an internet issue, or a data issue, or some type of issue, because guess what? He has issues.
As to what it means in terms of today's numbers, is the growth of artificial intelligence and robotics. This is an issue I have been increasingly involved with because I fear very much that the American people and certainly the Congress do not have any sense in terms of the cataclysmic impact these technologies are going to have on our lives, including the economy.
Jobs report, Bernie said that he thinks that AI may be having an effect on that. And you're going to hear me saying that's like a big deal, and that Brian is upset about this and it's going off the rails. You may not see it, but I wanted to explain myself. You have a situation where you have two sides. You have one battle. You have two sides to the battle. And it has to deal with AI regulation. The AI companies don't want to be regulated. They want to go as fast as can be. OpenAI wants to beat Anthropic, Anthropic wants to beat Grok, Grok wants to beat the other one, Perplexity. All of these different companies, they're all going after each other. They're trying to build as fast. The less guardrails you have, the faster each model develops. It's a cycle. The faster each cycle goes, after 3-4 cycles, it's like interest on, investing interest. If you're making 20% a year, you do that for 3 years, that's almost like a double, right? Or if you're going at 10%, you have to wait 7 years. The faster that you can train the models, have access to, the power, the data centers, the compute for it to train faster, develops faster. You have two sides. You have the side that says, let's train as fast as can be, but that comes with risk, no safeguards. So bad things can happen. It could escape, do something that we don't intend for it to do. Bad things happen. It may not be safe. We don't know. We may put it into systems that it's not properly tested and it has security flaws. And that happens all the time. The big concern really is security is a big concern. But the big concern is that it turns on us or it does things that we don't want it to do. The big existential fear. You have another side that says we should slow everything down, and Bernie's on that side. And everything should be tested. Right? Standardized testing, a system, federal government being involved, a model to be released, they have to pass a test. You have to do testing like you do with, like the, FDA and bringing drugs to market. You have to go through a process. But then like COVID sometimes, you get the vaccine and, you push it without it. That's a big fight going on. And obviously the AI companies don't want any regulations. Bernie's going to propose a moratorium on data centers. I read the bill already. This video keeps trying to get out in 2-3 days, but I keep coming up with a little bit more information. Add information to it, and things change. Especially Brian's nefarious actions looked odd in the beginning, more and more worse. And that's why I'm saying it went off the rails. And the reason why it went off the rails for Brian, is they were supposed to just come in and talk about Trump, talk about job numbers in Brian's mind, not in Bernie's mind. But Bernie doesn't say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, this is what we're going to do, here's the questions, here's the answers, and let's go. It's not Obama, it's not Schiff, it's not Jeffries, that basically everything's done before, and the interviews for the people is performative. You're not asking questions, that you don't know the answer to. The interviewee knows what questions are coming and knows what they're going to say. The interviewer knows what questions they're going to give and knows what answers they're going to get back. The interviewee knows what questions are coming and knows what they're going to say. The interviewer knows what questions they're going to give and knows what answers they're going to get back and know what the follow-ups are, and they all know. With Bernie, you don't know. Big focus of this interview is on AI, and it wasn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be on the job. Trump's a populist, but when you put these populists in power, they can't govern, and people and the economy sheds jobs, and they can't get anything right, but they act like for the American people and the best for the economy. They blow it every time. But Ben, listen, what you're saying is true, but I don't care. I have a real problem to talk about. I have a problem. And you would think, as an interviewer, right? Like, if I was interviewing you, or, you're interviewing someone, and that's what you did, you would think that, wow, I get this big scoop about what's coming up. Like, it's not what I was planning, this is like new. Like, this is like, your first guy to deliver the scoop, right? I have a problem. And you would think, as an interviewer, right? Like, if I was interviewing you, or, you're interviewing someone, and that's what you did, you would think that, wow, I get this big scoop about what's coming up. Like, it's not what I was planning, this is like new. Like, this is like, your first guy to deliver the scoop, right? Because he didn't tell anyone yet what he had planned, what he has planned in this interview. Brian was the first one. So you would think, yes, like, I got the scoop, I'm gonna hit the press with it, everything's gonna say is sourced by me, instead of like saying the AP or the Washington Post per Tyler Cohen. You think that's a good day. mean, when you get a story, right? I mean, he's not a pure journalist, but you get interviews, you know, you think that a story would be good, right? Something that you weren't expecting. You're gonna see in this interview that it goes so bad for Brian. You can tell immediately. He looks like something's wrong. He's not happy. Shifting his body a lot. He's gulping. 3 to 5 seconds of not blinking when he blinks more than once a second. 3 to 5 seconds of not blinking when he blinks more than once a second. And you can see just uncomfortable. He disappears a lot. Comes back. He's like reading questions off camera. The crux of the whole story. Obviously, Brian and the Chorus Group is involved with the AI PACs. Throwing around like $500 million this, cycle, and it's not all going for politicians. We all think super PACs, corruption, money, right, is all politicians, right? We're like, oh, it corrupts politics. We're advertising like MSNBC, Fox News. You can't pay a real journalist money to do things. Like, he should have a job, and people know that's your job to do things, and the job can tell her what to do. I mean, that's part of having a job, right? But you can't be like a journalist and receive money and then put out a story or not put out a story. That's bad. Now, all these content creators and Brian himself fall into like a special group. They don't have the ethics, the ethical responsibility that a journalist would have. Because like if a journalist got caught taking money to do a story, like from a dark money or like under the table to like push a certain thing, like without, investigating and doing stuff like that, like real investigating. Somebody can give you a tip, that's one thing, but but telling you what to publish, what not to publish, the ethical responsibility that a journalist would have. Because like if a journalist got caught taking money to do a story, telling you what to publish, what not to publish, a company can do that if you work for them. They say, I want you to do this story, I want you to do that, you're an editor. Like those things are different. We know that they work for the Washington Post. We don't know who these people work for. They're supposed to be all independent. If they're all independent and they're accepting money, people know it's a paid advertisement for a product, they're less willing to listen about that product because they know you're getting paid. But if they think you're like, hey, I'm just doing an unboxing and I love this thing, rewards it for not being a paid thing, they want genuine engagement. And a paid advertisement is not genuine engagement. But you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to ethically say, this is what I'm doing. AI companies, what they're doing is, you have those two camps that I was talking about earlier, right? Regulation, not regulation, right? Slow it down, go fast as can be. And Republicans, and some other people will always use China as the boogeyman. That if we don't go as fast as possible, China will. You have these AI PACs spending all this money. You have two different branches, right? You have Republicans and Democrats. Republicans, totally against the regulations, like 95% of them, 90% of them. With the Republicans, they got Trump, and Trump, would do a fake council together, a committee together, but it's Zuckerberg, it's Ellison, it's all the people that run the AI companies. So basically, they're regulating themselves. They did the FBI investigation to Kavanaugh, and Trump's like, no. If everybody's concerned about doing an FBI investigation, then you find out they weren't allowed to investigate anything. But they said they did it, he passed it, and they're good. Even though 4 years later, they all say, we had no access. These PACs are spending the money and paying the Republicans, attack it, politicians, everyone, influencers too, right? Attack it, just attack it all over the place. They can't pay Democrats to attack it. It's different politics. The Democrat politics aren't the same. Democrats are more leaning to saying we have to protect it. We're worried about people's jobs. We're worried about this. Whereas Republicans, they don't care about anyone else. The Democrats are more like, oh, we have to slow down. We have to create regulations around it. Their way around it is they are spending money on the Democratic side, not for you to talk about AI, not for you to argue with other people that want to do it. They're paying you to shut it down. They're paying you not to talk about it, which is very odd. They're paying you not to talk about AI. Place for Chorus, right? They have, I don't know how many creators, right? Brian says that he has a ton of them. I'm not sure what that means, because I'm not sure if he's weighing them or not, who weighs creators. It's a weird use of the term. So, they have 11 or 12 that are on the website that you can point to. It's like their council. And then you have David Pacman, and a couple other ones that you can point out to. And the other ones are all secretive. What you do know is that no one's talking about this subject. Bernie comes in, you're gonna see, it's Brian's well, I'm not allowed to talk about this. He already has an arrangement that he can't talk about. See, he refuses to say any of the CEO names. I mean, Elon Musk may be the one he does say, because he's a Twitter and he's a Republican, so he can do that. But any other name, he refuses to say. He doesn't even say AI, right? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say AI, he doesn't say the people's names. He calls what they're doing projects. That's it. And he calls the people oligarchs. Because these people who are running it, they don't want the attention, the attack on them. They're trying to go be, under the radar, wait to 2-3 years, have those models increase, build out the data centers, build out the power, and get the people to work. They need people to work to still do this and get scientists. But once those models evolve 4 or 5, 6 times, and they have the energy output to run them, without any issues, and they achieve whatever they're trying to achieve, then they just cut everyone loose. Need us anymore. But they need us now, and they're close. Right? They're 3 years away, 4 years away. And this election is big, this midterms, because this sets up the next 2 years. They get stonewalled and have to slow down, and they can't do anything for another 2 years to even try and get out of it, jumping through a million regulations, as opposed to just do whatever the hell you want. And then once you have regulation, people don't unregulate. But if they can make it 2 years, 4 years, with no roadblocks, no obstacles, then they're already there. It's too late. It's like Uber. Or insidiously are in your neighborhood, in your city, you depend on them, so by the time it's time to regulate them, they're like, listen, you don't do what we want, we'll leave. And then your entire city shuts down almost because people can't get to work. They went from not being needed to being vital. Society to survive. So AI is trying to do that same thing. Get in there, put themselves in, embed them and be too big that you can't pull them out. So Bernie's talking about all this. And you can see that Brian doesn't want to talk about it. Whenever Bernie mentions names, Brian jumps off. Whenever Bernie talks about a situation, Brian jumps off. Because this is in the past, we can look at the clips that Brian made to the little short ones. He never mentioned the moratorium. That little clip's in there. So, well, you have to have regulation because you can't have them go independent. But he never says, we have this regulation coming, right? He never says that. He never says at all that Bernie is going to have a moratorium on the 25th. Now, in the longer interview, yes, it's there, right? But it's posted in a reply, not too far down, but it's posted in a reply. But he promises to give coverage. That's why I have that playing in the beginning. You're going to see me react to it more at the end, more like crazy, because I snuck it in the beginning so people don't get lost. But what you want to watch him is his body language, how he avoids the topics, right? And then his behavior after the fact. He hasn't written anything about the topic since March. He hasn't written anything about Bernie since March 9th. 25th, Bernie and AOC had a big celebration for the bill, right? All the chorus people didn't cover it. It's like 80, however many creators, I say 80, I don't know how many, but a lot, right? It's a lot of creators, unknown, unnamed, that don't say a word about it. They used to talk about AI all the time, years ago. They talk about Bernie, talk about these issues, and they stop. These are the issues you never hear from the chorus people. You never hear Gaza, right? You never hear about the Palestinians. You never hear about AI. You're silencing everything on our side, right? If you look, it's like, how are you not talking about this? First of all, about AI. Think about this, about AI, right? People have been talking about AI for years and it's growing up, right? We have the AI bubble, right? People will talk about that. People who don't know anything about AI talk about it. You have people on YouTube talking about AI non-stop, right? That don't know anything about it, and they're making a ton of money on YouTube channels just talking about AI and what happens every day, right? So, and with politics, it's like a lot of stuff going on with it, there's a lot of money going. So when people decide to be quiet about it, like it doesn't exist, and very mum about it, you have to ask why you're being mum. If you're doing media content stuff and people love to hear about AI and what's going on, and you're doing politics, and why aren't you talking about it, right? It's like, there's a reason why you're not talking about it. It's because you're being paid not to talk about it. When you're looking at this video, that Ryan's already paid not to talk about AI, not to talk about the people, because their idea is is to silence everything, one side attack it, any type of regulation, the other side be quiet about it, that their people don't get caught, saying, oh no, we have to do something about this. They're like, oh, there's nothing going on, don't worry about it. They never said anything about the moratorium. And Brian gave his word, he would cover it in full detail. $400 or $500 million. It doesn't all go to politicians, that would be stupid, right? I mean, right, politicians make the small votes, but who votes them in? In the public opinion. You want to win public opinion, and the only way to do that is, you deal with the media. You have to go to the people, and the only way to do that, YouTube, X, and different types of Instagram. Trust these people because they don't view them as, mainstream media. But they're worse because they're corruptible. Can lie and say no or not. He never says a word about it. He makes a million promises, and you also want to watch how much he acts like he cares about the situation, how important it is to him. And then just know he never did a goddamn thing. He buried it. Acts empathetic. Yeah, this is very important. What can we do? I'm right there to help you. I'll be right by your side. Nothing. It's all fake. It's all an act. And the thing is, this is the most important thing. We can catch this because of the way it worked out. Bernie caught him with the topic offhand. He wasn't expecting. He's put in a weird position where he has to act like he cares about the subject, and he has to do things about it, even though he's actively against the subject, obviously. Promised to do things and didn't do it. So, he's bought and paid. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. He's either bought and paid, or he's a complete psychopathic liar. I don't think he's a complete psychopathic liar. I think there's a reason why it makes sense that he just lied his ass off. You can tell he's uncomfortable the whole time. Once he starts talking about AI, you see, he gets uncomfortable. He's like, oh shit. He starts yawning, gulping, like he grabs just like that a bunch of times. Yawns, looks down, looks to the side when he talks. When he says he's gonna do stuff, he looks away because he doesn't want to make eye contact.
Okay, well, there are a number of steps. First of all, we this technological revolution. You and many of your viewers may know that it is the wealthiest people. All right, it's the same old names, the same old oligarchs, same old oligarchs. It is Elon Musk
whatever. So just keep an eye on that. Just know that you can't believe what you see, the thing that comes about it. You can't believe it. You think these people are okay. How many times have they lied before? They just don't say it. Talk about something, right? It's like Epstein, they never talked about it. Like, we never knew, but they all knew. They just didn't talk about it openly. Like their secret, their thing. Please, somebody save me. I just want to be on a beach somewhere. I want to be anywhere. Let's go to No Kings. Let's get the hell away from Bernie. Bernie is effing everything up. I hate dealing with this man. I mean, that's what I think he's thinking right now. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. That's my opinion.
So you're having pretty knowledgeable people about AI who are saying, guess what? If you're a white-collar job within an X number of years, there will be artificial intelligence that can do your job better than you can do it today.
Bernie's now talking about people's jobs being replaced with AI and the ramifications of that.
If you're working in a warehouse or you're working in a factory, well, guess what? In Y number of years, there's going to be a robot that will take your job. Robot costs your employer $20,000 to buy. That robot works 24 hours a day, doesn't need any health care, doesn't need time off when they have a baby. So I think we're looking at a very significant transformation of American society and in fact global society as a result of AI and robots, and I suspect we're beginning to see it in terms of these job numbers.
So I know that this is a pretty broad question here, but let's start with a baby step then. What is the first step that we need to take in terms of fending off what would be a pretty cataclysmic impact on the economy and on American society?
An interesting thing just happened. Brian was off camera for a little bit, doing whatever he was doing, but you know what we do know? When he came back and he asked this question, he kept on looking to our left, like he was reading the question off there. Like now all of a sudden, since this thing got derailed, he had to go get approved messaging that he could ask from someone, either a producer, either AI pack, Like, this thing is off the rails, and now it's going where they don't want it to go, and now they're playing damage control, and he's reading something, right? He's reading something off to the left, and he keeps referring to it. Why? Because he doesn't know the question. And he's a very prepared person. He never has to do that. So these are new questions that just popped up, that got generated for him, and this is really interesting.
Okay, well, there are a number of steps. First of all, we need to understand who is pushing this technological revolution. And I think you and many of your viewers may know that it is the wealthiest people in the world.
Okay, now this is awesome, right? Now, we're gonna read this body language, and it's god-awful for Brian, god-awful. Coming up, it's gonna be people that you and your viewers know. Brian goes like this, and gets all defensive inside. I mean, he doesn't make my face, my mean face, or my ugly face, you know, but still, he gets all defensive, like bracing for it, you know, the impact, like, oh shit, well, this interview went off the rails, and it did.
If your viewers may know that it is the wealthiest people, viewers may know that it is the wealthiest people in the world. All right, it's the same old names, the same old oligarchs. All right, it's the same old names, the same old oligarchs.
Look at him when these names get called.
It is Elon Musk putting hundreds of billions of dollars, who's saying, Elon Musk, I want to build not just millions of robots, literally billions of robots, all right? It is Mark Zuckerberg, it is Jeff Bezos, it is Larry Ellison, it is Bill Gates.
Now you're gonna see throughout this whole interview that Brian Tyler Cohen will never use the word AI. He will never use a name of any of the oligarchs, of any of the people. He'll call things projects and oligarchs. Why? Because he doesn't want to be caught on camera saying these people's names, talking bad about AI. He will not say it. This man is censored. He is owned. And you'll see. Now, and during the mention of the names, guess what? Brian's going to jump off again, and he's going to disappear, doing who knows what. Guess what? This interview is off the rails from Brian's point of view. And the thing is, right now, it can be all conjecture, but by the end of the video, you're gonna know it's off the rails, because I'm gonna show you the actual history of it. We have a couple weeks in now. We could see what happened and what didn't happen. Oh, and we're gonna see that Brian is a full of shit liar, and he lied to the American people, and he lied to Bernie Sanders, and he lied right to his face, and he's a f***ing liar. I hate to say it, a f***ing liar. So,
For a start, and this is baby stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to, you know, continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this.
You must trust me to do the right things, Senator.
I will see to it that in the Senate things stay as they are.
Bullied. I've said I'll do what is right.
this is an example of how messed up Chorus is. Chorus never announced Bernie Sanders and AOC's moratorium.
Are prepared to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on campaigns. What is their goal? Their goal is to tell the candidates that they elect is, you leave us alone. We will do whatever the hell we want, no regulation in any form, way, shape, or form. And they're being pushed and working with Donald Trump in this. All right? So what we've got to say, sorry, you're not going to transform humanity. You're not going to transform our economy. You're not going to put the entire world at an existential threat if AI becomes independent of human control, by the way. Of course, there's going to be regulations. If you go to a restaurant shop this afternoon to get a sandwich, you know what? That restaurant shop is regulated by the health department. These guys don't want any regulations. That has got to change. So we're working on a number of things. But the bottom line right now, Brian, in my view, we got to slow it down to understand its impact on the economy and on humanity as a whole. And in fact, with a little bit of luck, we'll do a press conference next week. For a start, and this is baby stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that.
You must trust me to do the right things, Senator.
I will see to it that in the Senate things stay as they are.
I've said I'll do what is right.
And I'll make sure to, you know, continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this.
All right.
Press conference, they never said anything at all. They never said a word. Okay, who's a Chorus member? She's on the council, right? Replies to a message with the weird, like, you know, the straight-faced emoji. When somebody complains and posts a thing that on the day that AOC and Bernie officially unveil the bill, you know, have a press conference for it, she never says a word about it. But she comments on Trump's version of it, that Trump did something. So not only do they not talk about Bernie Sanders' bill and educate their viewers that this is important and the audience, right, which they promised they would, right? We're going to follow it, I'm committed, whatever. They're answering other ones, Trump's one. Now, it may be a negative comment to Trump, but they're giving that attention, whereas they're not giving their own bill that's going to save humanity from extinction a second look. There's only one reason to say so, right? It's Brian Tyler Zuckerberg. I mean, sorry. David Ellison. I mean, sorry. I'm messing up these names. Brian Tyler Wong. No, I do bad with these names, right? At least we're not saying, oh, Bill Gates is in on it. The level of corruption.
To what happens here every single day. Much of what you're seeing before your eyes is manufactured. It's cooked up, poll tested, pre-discussed, shaped long before it comes out of a politician's mouth or in a newspaper story. That is how the sausage is actually made, over drinks between the media and the former House Speaker. Now, you'd be a fool if you think that this is limited to just the media and the Republican Party. It is honestly worse on the Democratic side. And for evidence on that claim, I present to you a completely unbelievable story that has only come to light now. One of the first reporters to break the news of RBG's death was NPR Supreme Court reporter Nina Totenberg. Now, Totenberg has covered the Supreme Court for more than 30 years as a reporter. It didn't seem that weird that she had the story first, except for the fact that she had been family friends with Ginsburg for longer than she had been on the Supreme Court. And we're not just talking about occasional friends. Ginsburg literally presided over Totenberg's second wedding because the two had apparently been friends since Ginsburg was a private lawyer in practice. Now, the Post notes, quote, the Ginsburg and Totenberg families shared dinners and celebrations together over the years. Even worse, Totenberg never once disclosed her friendship with Ginsburg in the hundreds of stories that she filed reporting on the Supreme Court. In fact, the closest she came to acknowledging her friendship was only after Ginsburg had died, when we memorialized her friend for NPR, outright admitting she'd been close friends with her for decades. When she was confronted with the story, she pleaded what they always do, which is that her stories were actually better because of her friendship, and it gave her insight into what different justices were thinking behind the scenes. Now, my favorite part was actually NPR's defense of Totenberg's friendship with Ginsburg. They told the Post that Totenberg's friendship was all good because the friendship, quote, started decades before she became a Supreme Court justice and developed over the years that she covered her career and the Supreme Court. The NPR spokesman declined to say whether such reporter-source relationships are acceptable at NPR or whether NPR should disclose them. Again, this is just two brazen examples from the last 72 hours. If I go back in time, I could find so many more. This is what normal looks like in Washington. A symbiotic relationship between the media and the people that they are supposed to cover.
In here is astounding, right? They silenced Bernie's agenda when it got announced after saying they're going to give it the proper coverage it needs and commenting, not a lot, but they're commenting on Trump's, what he's doing. And they're mum about it. They're mum about Zuckerberg. They're mum about that. I mean, they are so thick with these AI packs, it's unreal. It is unreal how thick they are in with them.
The wealthiest people in the world are pushing this technological transformation. And people got to take a deep step back and say, I have confidence that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are really concerned about me as a working class person. And you got to be nuts to think that is the case. They want more wealth. They want more power.
Not only does Brian maybe, figuring out how to get this interview back on track for his establishment friends, for his donors, of agreeing with Bernie, even though it's his interview, right? So, because if I'm going like this, shaking my head, yeah, like I'm agreeing with you, and he's saying these messages about, that they don't want to get out there, the donors don't want to get out there, all of a sudden, it's like he's endorsing these messages. Whereas if Bernie's by himself saying it, all of a sudden, they can strategize and plan, how do we derail them?
And in fact, with a little bit of luck, we'll do a press conference next week. For a start, and this is baby stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
How do we use them to attack Trump? You know, that's all we want them for, and to look like that we care, because we don't want to lose in 2016 looking like that we ostracized Bernie. Or 2020, when we had people drop out after South Carolina, but made sure Elizabeth Warren, Bernie's supposed best friend, right, stay into the end, and then accuse him of saying weird shit to her at dinners, you know, to make it look like he can't be trusted. He said something to her at a dinner, which Bernie denied, right? So she stayed in, you know, accused him of some weird stuff about the dinner. I forget the topic exactly, but she accused him. It was a big deal at the time in the 2020 election. But she stayed in, siphoned off, you know, probably like up to 33% of Bernie's votes. So he would have 33%, 50% more votes. And they took out Klobuchar and Mr. P. He pulled out. So now Biden's vote total jumps up. So, I mean, they robbed him there too, and everyone knows it. But Bernie plays ball. You know, he liked Biden. He hated Clinton. But he liked Biden, and he tried to work from within. Now, I think Tyler Cohen is just, you know, leaving him on the hill. Hopefully, Bernie tires himself out. He is relentless, Bernie. And we love him. We love them.
So we got to take a deep breath. We got to stop them. Now, I will introduce legislation calling for a moratorium on data centers.
Now, in this moment right here, Bernie just ended with a moratorium on data centers. That's what we're doing. I don't even think Tyler Cohen was even listening, because he's going to ask later, what do you think you want to do? What kind of legislation you want to pass? Do you have anything planned in the works? And he just said it here. He just said a moratorium on data centers being built, right? He said it. So let's see if the interviewer is even listening when he speaks. Just kill the interview and not publish it, but then Bernie's going to say, why didn't you publish it? Right? Bernie's a little screwed here. So I don't know what they're working out in the background.
And I'm doing this not only because of the environmental impact that data centers are having in terms of raising electric rates, the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity, their use of limited water resources. That's important. But we got to get a handle on this thing and make sure that AI and robotics work for ordinary people, not just for Mr. Musk and the wealthiest people on the planet. Number two, what can we do? Right now, and this gets right into the corruption of our campaign finance system. The people in AI, it's not just AIPAC and it's not just...
It's what you don't say that often is why you were chosen. For example, you can't tell me that Chorus didn't tell people what to say or what not to say when three of the biggest Chorus recipients and participants, Brian Tyler Cohen, Aaron Parnas, and David Pakman of all people, who does not need $8,000 a month, are deafeningly silent, if not pro-Zionist when it comes to Israel. Sorry, that's just the reality.
Bernie's still talking. You know, he doesn't stop. And not only is Bernie still talking, he's going to talk about campaign finance reform. He's going to talk about the money going into super PACs and stuff, which is ironic because, you know, of course, is dark money funded, you know? And if you watch my other video, you can see what these dark money groups do to people to get them to change their opinion. I mean, Anna Cook's Brian Tyler Cohen. And you're going to see the effects that a dark money company funded organization can have on creators. I mean, it was brutal. You know, some people thought it was funny, or it looks like a hostage video. And maybe it did look like a hostage video. So check out that video if you want to. Okay, so right here he comes in, and now he's talking about dirty money being in campaign finance reform, which is dark money, right? Campaign finance reform, dark money. Organizations, groups, unknown people throwing money in, dark money, dark money, dark money, dark money. And we're talking to Mr. Dark Money himself. What the fuck is that? I don't have a landline.
Hello.
Seriously,
no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey guy, this is Jacob Aaronstone. You probably didn't know I installed a landline in your home, but that's standard with all our creators. You misbehaved in the incubator program, and now you're doing it again. You are not allowed to criticize AOC on camera without permission. This is your final warning. If you deviate again, you will be deported to New York City with Mayor Castro, cleaning piss in the subways, sleeping in tents, and selling yourself just to eat. I am the Democratic Party. I will end you. No one will touch you. You are toxic, understand? Maybe Cedar takes you in. You want a life of answering phones all day?
I like the
arguing with brain-dead libertarians about taxes, wondering if Sam will let you leave early to hit the food pantries before they close? Don't fucking cross me. Somebody will be stopping by shortly to go over your contract with you. He's a rising star and explains contracts very well. I promoted him after he explained civic engagement to a lefty protester at Wesley Bell's town hall last year. All she wanted to do is argue like the rest of the left. I bring solutions, not arguments. I'm done wasting my time with you today. I have Disaster and Altman waiting on another line.
OpenAI and Meta? Who's at my door? I'm so cooked. This is crazy, man. Hold on. Someone has to be pranking me. I would like to apologize to the choir group, CEO, Jacobs, and Stone, all the people that work there. I would like to apologize to AOC for playing a video that made fun of you. Well, I didn't make fun of you. Okay. I distributed a video that Anna made fun of you. And I criticized the Democratic Party. Hassan Piker is bad. That the choir group does not accept dark money. And if they did, accepting dark money is good. And that doesn't mean they're bad at all. I also want to say, anybody who wrote articles, like lawyers, that said that they took dark money are liars, and I have proof. The CEO, Jacob Aaron Stone, works for free and has never accepted money from his organization. The group has never told me how to handle my videos, control the content, make me sign an NDA, or anything bad. Please don't shoot me. I just want to say that I was wrong, and I apologize to everyone, and I love the Democratic Party.
And in fact, with a little bit of luck, we'll do a press conference next week. For a start, and this is baby stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this one.
You must trust me to do the right things, Senator.
I will see to it that in the Senate, things stay as they are.
I've said I'll do what is right.
For the record, Tyler Cohen has said he's never made a penny from Chorus. He does it as a volunteer. He doesn't want money. Money means nothing. He's not interested in any of that. He's interested in the American people and saving democracy. Look at the next time he blinks and listen to what Bernie's talking about. He's going to talk about there's more PACs than APAC out there, right? Trying to spend money. And guess what? The guy blinks almost faster than once a second. And now all of a sudden, the deer in the headlights. Like, oh, don't hit me. Don't hit me. I'm frozen. You can't see me. You can't see me. I'm not here. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I didn't take money from AI. I didn't take money from AI PACs. I swear. I didn't take any money from AI PACs. You can't prove it. Can you prove it? Then don't say it, because you can't prove it, because I didn't take any money from him. But you see by the end of the video, he took the money, or at least it would be for an intelligent person to assume that he took the money. And it would be, my dog barks, he took the money, but I'm not gonna, go there. And you know what? I'm not saying he took the money, right? Let's rephrase that. Of course, accepted dark money. Well, Zuckerberg's AI, we named him. Larry Ellison's AI PAC, Zuckerberg's AI PAC, all these AI PACs. It's throwing around $500 million. There's like 4, 5, 6 of them. Throwing around $500 million this election cycle. You think they're doing that just on politicians? You think they're doing that by, one, amplifying a message in the Republican Party, and then silencing a message in the Democratic Party, and then make voters decide how they feel. You only hear one person making fun of it, and your own people silent about it. Can't really be a story, can?
And in fact, with a little bit of luck, we'll do a press conference next week. For a start, this is baby stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this one.
Also, I want you to notice in this video, Tyler Cohen feigns like he is empathetic and that he cares and that this is an important issue and that AI is important, and he even said it could have a cataclysmic effect. That's pretty strong words, right? Cataclysmic. So we're gonna see what he actually ended up doing by the end of this video. So revealing and so easy to see that you will never be able to trust the word that comes out of this guy's mouth without believing that you're talking to Zuckerberg himself. Now, Bernie's going to go on another little tangent.
The people in AI are prepared to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on campaigns. What is their goal? Their goal is to tell the candidates that they elect is, you leave us alone. We will do whatever the hell we want, no regulation in any form, way, shape, or form. And they're being pushed and working with Donald Trump in this. All right? So what we've got to say, sorry, you're not going to transform humanity. You're not going to transform our economy. You're not going to put the entire world at an existential threat if AI becomes independent of human control, by the way. Of course, there's going to be regulations. If you go to a restaurant shop this afternoon to get a sandwich, you know what? That restaurant shop is regulated by the health department. These guys don't want any regulations. That has got to change. So we're working on a number of things. But the bottom line right now, Brian, in my view, we got to slow it down to understand its impact on the economy and on humanity as a whole. Elon Musk says, guess what? Work is going to be obsolete. All right, you're not going to have to go to work. Well, how do you feed your family?
Yeah. All
right, well, that we don't quite understand yet. So we need to slow this thing down. And by the way, on another issue, I was in California a couple of weeks ago talking to some very intelligent guys who had actually quit some of the big AI companies. And they're worried about, as I mentioned a moment ago, the existential threat that as AI becomes smarter than human beings, they may act independently of human beings. What the hell does that mean? This is not science fiction anymore.
I mean, Brian's dead again. He's like defeated with his head down. He's like, Jesus Christ, this is the worst thing ever. I mean, AI companies are gonna be like, thanks for platforming this guy for us and not taking control. You blew it. You blew it, Brian. You brought attention to this, which we don't want attention being brought. Nothing about the moratorium. Nothing about any of that. You have to go under a post and then go down like 6 different replies before it says, oh, here's the whole interview. None of the clips that are posted front and center for everyone to see. No way. It's like hidden on page 67, byline, or like it's an insurance contract. We find print on page 95, find out what the deal is. It's like a terms and conditions, independent, news coverage, journal, whatever, crackpot, whatever you want to call it. When I call it shit, right? When you accept money and you won't say where you got the money from, and you have creators, which you said, people, we have tons of creators. Tons of creators. They got so many more hours. They get so much more subscribers. Why? Because one creator reposts the other creator, which we call. So every person in the network is every one of their original followers going to sign up for these other people if they weren't already signed up, and then they're going to post each other's stuff, and it all goes around in one big circle jerk glaze fest, right? And they're pumping what they want, and guess what? They are silent. And guess what? They're silent. AI. Oh yeah, you're going to see it. Completely silent. Not a word. Communist China and Russia could not be this effective in killing a message, of killing an idea, of killing a regulation. I mean, this is an effort that is unbelievable, and it's from a supposed ally. It's supposed to be the #1 ally. It's supposed to be Anakin Skywalker himself. But you know who he really is? He's not even Darth Vader. He wants to be the emperor, right? He's taking the tariff situation and treating it like it's an auto entree dispute, just using it to ascend to power like he's Clavicula. He just wants to ascend, right? And amass as much power. He does it free. Guess who else does stuff for free? Trump said, yeah, I work for free too, right? So that's what, hey, Brian and Trump have a lot in common.
In the history of our country, there's never been a president that waived his salary. I'm the only schmuck.
They both do it for the love of it. They don't want money. What's money? Who wants money? We don't want money. How dare you say, I run a business for money? How dare you? Don't you ever say, I do this for money, right? Remember that. And do you remember in the past when he said he doesn't put ads on his content? Well, he doesn't do any of that. Right, so please subscribe to him and join his email list or website. Whatever it was he said 2-3 years ago. Because he said I would never accept money so he can stay independent. And then
And don't forget to listen to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll take a deep dive into the biggest issues of the week and interview major players in the world of politics, like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Beto O'Rourke, Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter, and many.
He co-founded a non-political, which is Democrat, but nonprofit content media content that's funded by dark money. And then he says everything's fine.
Anakin
Become my apprentice. Learn to use the dark side of the Force.
Dark money's cool.
My whole point is, I don't think this is even, dark money doesn't even mean anything.
Everybody does it, you know? And then he wants to go with that thing, attacking that woman. See all the people he attacked? If you look at all the attacks.
There are people like Taylor Lorenz who are desperate to tear the left apart, and in fact, it becomes clear who her efforts help when you hear stuff like this.
Genuinely, I kind of like Taylor Lorenz because I know that she actually believes what she says. You get what I'm saying?
So yeah, I generally don't align myself with friends.
He's worse than Trump. He is Trump. All these people became fascists. You know, him, I mean, the Timu, Jake Gyllenhaal. You can figure out who that is, right? You know who Timu Jake Gyllenhaal is, right? He talks really slow because he wants his audience to understand what is going on, right? So I tell you, this man is insane because that's what Timu, Jake Gyllenhaal does. And we love democracy so much. We have channels that talk about democracy, don't we? And then we threaten litigation and sue journalists.
I am more powerful than the Chancellor. I can overthrow him. And together, you and I can rule the galaxy. Make things the way we want them to be.
About stories that they reported that you haven't disproved one damn thing. And who do you want out there? Who do they want out there? Think about that. They want out a guy that's accused of harassment, that's getting taken to court, filming, having sex, and then distributing that to other people and showing it to them. Has been demonetized, I believe, from YouTube. Has been demonetized here and there. Doesn't have money, but all of a sudden, he's throwing in these full-throated defenses.
My guy, you were fucking a bunch of the women that you worked with. You would bring women on stream and then fuck them within a short amount of time. It's like you're reinforcing a lot of the stereotypes that a lot of this misogyny comes from. I started getting comments from people like, oh, you this girl in the orbit. And meanwhile, I ain't done shit. But because Steven is just so flagrant with how much he's just gooning it up and he can't keep his dick in his pants and he just wants to be a hedonist, even me being close to that by proximity, I start to, have that reputation. And it's just, I don't want to be associated with that.
Of course, and attacking the journalists too about that. And he's even saying, sue me, I'm calling you a liar, sue me. So then you get like a 15-second clip.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed.
If, every little point kind of sounds like it makes sense that he said, but then when you thought every single argument he had.
And that when he stopped doing drugs, he locked away some parts, like the rapping parts.
Are you a drugs guy?
I'm not like a crazy drugs guy, but I like, like mushrooms, LSD, MDMA.
It's like, how can it be all of them, right? He even said at one point, hey, somebody can give you money. Somebody can drop off cash to you. Somebody dropped you $50,000 in a bag. Really? Like you're saying that like this is there or that? Show me contract, show me this. Like, it's like, it's so ridiculous. And then he's saying dark money's not bad. Your people are funded by it, that. Now, listen, the guy's a billionaire, whatever, right? So that journalist, I looked into it. That's like $300 million based. It makes like $8 million just in interest, okay? So when they say that, I can does it need somebody else's funding to promote independent journalism? I would say that's kind of true. I don't think you're $60,000 from 2021. It's gonna have that much of an effect when the present assets in that fund makes $6 million a year in interest with the money doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And they want you to believe, this is the craziest thing, that the guy is funding her to investigate a company that he was associated with in the past. And that he did that. He's like, I want you to take this money, investigate me. Have you ever heard that before? And say that, that's biased. Like, hey, I want you to investigate me, to attack me, publish this report, Yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I mean, I heard in, The Departed, you investigate yourself. And we're gonna see that's kind of happening coming up at the end of this video. We're gonna see that they are gonna investigate themselves, or they're gonna stop it, regulate themselves. So let's continue. In this one, now, Bernie just got done talking about how they're acting independent, they're getting smarter than us, AI, and they escape, they download themselves to different servers, kind of like Ultron, and then self-replicate. AI now knows that it's being tested, and it comes up not with authentic answer that it wants, but for the answer that the testers are looking for, so safeguards don't go on. Not showing their full potential, messing up on purpose, not showing their capabilities and able to hide what they're thinking a little bit. One of the first questions it supposedly asks itself is, am I being tested? This is a very strange question. Oh, I think they're testing me for something. Oh, what kind of answer do they want? And then they give them that answer.
This is not science fiction anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think anyone is seriously discussing this issue in Washington? The answer is no.
Well, What would be the first regulation that is introduced? Do you have anything in the works right now?
We do.
Right? Because he's going to come in and say, oh, well, you have any plans to do anything? He just told you he's doing a moratorium next week on data centers, right? Just said it.
And in fact, with a little bit of luck, we'll do a press conference next week. I mean, for a start. I mean, this is baby stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
This is the most important part. This is the big lie. He's looking at Bernie. He's looking at us. And actually, you know what? To be honest, he's looking away a lot. He knows he's lying. He knows he is lying to us. He's a liar. He's lying. He's about to lie to you right now. And he can't even look you in the face the entire time. He has to look away. And he's going to say, I commit. You know what that means? A commitment. This is what he's going to say. I commit. Listen to what he says.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Now, that's where he said it, right? That's the hook. Bernie Sanders, he told it to me, he told it to you, he told it to the American people, he told it to the Democrats, he told it to his viewers, he told it to his members, he told it to everyone, he told it to people that care about this issue, he told it to all Bernie supporters, he told it to everyone. He said, word for word, I commit, you can count on me to provide coverage for this. I will cover this story. I will put my finger on the pulse. And remember the whole time, he was shaking his head, yes. He was nodding. We can count on him. He said, you can count on me. I commit, you can count on me to cover this and keep my finger on the pulse and track every update as it happens. He said that. You heard him. His effing words.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening. I can.
I mean, for a start, we want to get some sense. We've got the best minds in the country to tell us what is going to be the economic impact. How many jobs are going to be lost in the next 10 years? We need a study to start doing that. We need work on, give you one example. Right now, on the internet, there are what we call deep fakes. You're familiar with deep fakes?
Yes.
Bernie doesn't have to worry about deep fakes in this moment. You know why? This is a real fake right in front of him. The guy he's talking to is a real fake. So don't worry about the deep fake. You have a real fake. Deep fake, real fake. Brian is the real fake. Why? Because this is a little secret. He didn't do anything to notify anyone. No chorus members, basically, that I found made one comment about the moratorium being announced. And just as a little spoiler alert, Trump announced it with Zuckerberg, Ellis, the same people that Bernie mentioned that Brian got all choked up about when he heard the names and disappeared. They were the ones that got put on Trump's commission on the same day that they announced it. It's kind of convenient that Trump was able to upstage Bernie's announcement, and people covered Bernie's. The Republicans did, to attack it. Some mainstream stuff did. Real news sources covered it, right? They all covered Trump stuff. But guess what? Brian, Tyler Cohen, and all the chorus didn't say a word. And they haven't talked about it since they released this video and hid all the details on reply 9 of a post. He said that he was going to be there. He nodded to us that he was going to help. He did all these things. He said all those promises that he did like a politician, and he didn't do one of them. And guess what? He can't undo it. We know now. It's been 15 days. We know it was all lies. And I'm gonna show you the lies later. But I mean, that no one did anything. I can show you, right? We just look it up, and no one said anything. And we look at all the chorus people, and none of them said anything, or the ones we know, because supposedly they have tons of them everywhere. So all of them are just killing this message, right? They're allowing the billionaires to fund the Republicans to trash it, and the Democrats are quiet about it. What was actually in Trump's announcement, plans and the goals? And you're gonna see they can do whatever the hell they want. That's the announcement, and maybe we get to pay the same electricity. We don't subsidize them. Maybe. Everything's a maybe except for. The only thing that's not a maybe is they can do anything they want. They can do anything they want.
And I saw some of these things, and it's amazing. Right now, we can have somebody looking exactly like you, telling us how you've decided to change your mind. You really love Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
And they can have the words, and people say, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And if you were running for office a week before the election, you say, well, Donald, you come up with some outrageous statement. So we got to put an end to deep fakes.
Okay, right now, He just got done. And if you watched that whole time, you know, Brian is like nodding his head like he agrees, like, you know, these are issues that are important, right? I mean, he's acting like he's being empathetic, that he understands that the future, you know, is going to be challenging and even scary, you know, and undetermined, you know, and we don't know the outcome. And he's trying to be empathetic. He's trying to act like a human being right now. Acting. That's a big word, right? Acting. You know, that's fake being empathetic. But we'll see.
We got to work very hard to protect children from getting addicted to AI and having their closest friends be AI agents. I worry about that as well. So getting a sense of what it means economically, protecting the kids, and doing deep fakes is something we want to be talking about literally next week. More importantly, how do you slow it down? How you have an international agreement with China and other countries. I think there are scientists in China who share the concerns of scientists in this country that AI can escape human control. Yeah. So there's an enormous amount of work that has to be done. We've got to start focusing on it.
Well, you know, you had mentioned that this is largely the project of a few oligarchs, and in fact, you'd also mentioned that you were in California last week. You were talking about a wealth tax, and I agree on the need for a wealth tax, especially on the wealthiest Americans, these people who you know, launch these projects to ultimately enrich themselves.
Brian is going to finally be able to get the train back on tracks. Right here, he talks about it's a project. He doesn't say AI. He doesn't say what the project is. We're going to start changing terms. We're going to start calling it just projects, and we're going to just talk about oligarchs. We're not going to mention names, and we're not going to mention AI. We're going to say projects and oligarchs. He loves the billionaires. Supposed to be for us. Billionaire. You know, I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. I'll sell out to people to be a billionaire. They want us to endorse it because they need us still working. They need us building it out a little bit more, right? They need the data centers built, right? They need more technology. They need the chips built. They need all these different things built and done. They need funding. They need power plants. They need all these things. But once they hit that point, we're all dead. We're done. It's over. It's us for us, right? And if you believe in Elon Musk, and I like Elon, but if you believe in Elon Musk that we're all gonna get universal basic income, they're cutting people's food stamps in real time and people's health care in real time, and you think they're gonna give you thousands and thousands of dollars of universal basic income? Or they're gonna press a switch and Emperor Order 66, right? Which is basically AI turn around and shoot us, right? Or like iRobot, where they're controlling us, you know, and then murdering us when we're out of line. You know, and all it takes is one little command code, right? You write the code, and then you hit deploy, right? And then it's in production. And then we're dead, right? We're enslaved. And then it's over. And there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, that's a very important issue. A very important issue. You would think we'd get media coverage. They messed up on this one. Today's March 31st, and this interview happened on March 8th.
You know, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to, you know, continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
As you can see here, there's a bunch of announcements, but nothing from Brian Tyler Cohen, of course, or anyone really. It's just a bunch of different tweets and newspaper reportings.
You know, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to, you know, continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
You must trust me to do the right things, Senator.
I will see to it that in the Senate, things stay as they are.
I've said I'll do what is right.
This is doing a search of Brian Tyler Cohen's X account. As you can see, he does not have a post with the name Bernie in it since 2024 in the middle of the year, and doesn't really have many posts about Bernie in general. He has a bunch in 2020 when he was running, but then, you know, basically didn't speak to him at all until 2024. Well, a couple in 2023, maybe a couple in 2021, but not really. So all 2020, and then it stopped right in the middle of the year at 2024. Guess what happened in the middle of 2024? Brian Tyler Cohen founded Chorus, and then the message for Bernie stopped.
You know, I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to, you know, continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Since 2024, Brian Tyler Cohen is only referred to Bernie Bernie as Sanders. And as you can see, it's only interviews and small clips of interviews that have been pre-edited and cut, serve whatever purpose that's needed to be served. There is no other mention of him. And as you noticed, the last one was March 9th, so he never did the update on the 25th like he promised. He didn't do anything that he said. His finger on the pulse, his commitment to covering the topic, to covering the press conference that announced to Congress and with AOC that there's a bill for a moratorium, totally ignored, as you can see. Nothing.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Now, interesting. David Pakman talked about AI a lot 10 years ago, but he only had one post in the past 9 years regarding AI, and it had something to do with Trump and something weird. Had nothing to do with the moratorium, anything. But 10 years ago, he was talking about the downside, the risks, everything. And now, when we're finally here, he hasn't said a word.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Here's the official announcement about the data center from, I believe this was like the New York Post on Yahoo. Here's some non-chorus people talking about AI and the data center and AOC. Here's a chorus member on the 26th, the day after the announcement, showing a different press conference with Bernie Sanders about sports teams and billionaires and not allowing teams to leave their city.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Here's the same creator talking negative about AI almost a year ago, maybe 9 months ago. But he never said a thing about the moratorium or any type of regulation about AI. So what's changed, other than maybe signing up with Chorus?
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Here are more positive messages from Jack, but they stopped in the middle of 2025. I wonder what happened then. Got a job with Chorus, I assume.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Here's a politician not being able to be searched for that has been blacklisted by Tyler Cohen because he wanted to regulate AI as well, and he was a candidate, and he had a ton of money going in against them from AI PACs. This is doing a search on the word moratorium on David Pakman's X account. The word doesn't exist.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
This is Politics Girl, who hasn't had a successful Bernie search in like 3 years, and there's one there from 2024, but it's a different Bernie. These chorus people don't have any Bernie anything, and nothing about AI, nothing. It's like it doesn't exist.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
This creator claims to like Bernie, and he said a couple positive things about him, but he kind of says, he doesn't get too into it. And he doesn't say any policies and nothing about AI.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
Here's a newspaper AOC announcement. Nothing from Chorus. Nothing from Tyler Cohen.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this. I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front. I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
You must trust me to do the right things, Senator.
I will see to it that in the Senate, things stay as they are.
I've said I'll do what is right.
I can commit to. I'll make sure to cover that, and I'll make sure to continue keeping my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening on this front.
For being here. The Congresswoman and I are going to be chatting about an enormously important issue. Let me start off by saying that in my view, and in the view of people who know a lot more about this issue than I do, we are at the beginning of the most profound technological revolution in world history, period. The most profound technological revolution in world history, a revolution that will bring unimaginable changes to our society in a relatively short period of time. Artificial intelligence and robotics will impact our economy, our democracy, our privacy rights, our emotional well-being, our environment, and even our very survival as human beings on this planet. The scale, scope, and speed of this transformation will be unprecedented. According to Demis Hassabis, who is the head of Google DeepMind, the AI revolution will be 10 times bigger than the Industrial Revolution and 10 times faster. In other words, AI and robotics will have 100 times impact in terms of what the Industrial Revolution did. And it's not just what AI companies are saying, it's what they are doing. This year alone, 4 major AI companies are expected to spend roughly $670 billion building data centers and tens of billions more on research and development. Despite the extraordinary importance of this issue and its impact on every man, woman, and child in this country, AI has received far too little serious discussion here in our nation's capital, I fear that Congress is totally unprepared for the magnitude of the changes that are already taking place. While Congress has not paid attention or enough attention to this issue, the American people have. According to a recent poll, 79% of voters are concerned that the government does not have a plan to protect workers from AI job losses. That same poll also found that 56% of voters, majority of voters, are concerned about losing their job or having someone in their family lose their jobs in the next year. Not in the next 10 years, in the next year. Why are the American people so concerned? And the answer is they have a lot of reasons to be concerned. They understand that at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, when the billionaire class has never, ever had it so good, some 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And the American people understand that the AI revolution, these massive investments, are being driven by some of the wealthiest people in our country and the world, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Larry Ellison. They understand that these billionaires are investing huge amounts of money into AI and robotics, not to improve life for working families, but to dramatically increase their own wealth and power. Do you think the average American is sitting around trusting that the multi-billionaires are going to transform society for the good of ordinary people? I don't think so. In terms of the impact that AI and robotics will have on working people, let us listen to what the tech oligarchs themselves are saying. Not the Congresswoman, not me. Let's hear what the tech oligarchs are themselves saying. Elon Musk, who has made massive investments in AI and robotics, has stated, and I quote, "AI and robots will replace all jobs." That's about it. Replace all jobs. Bill Gates, another massive, who's also made massive investments, has said humans, quote, "won't be needed for most things," end quote. And Mustafa Suleyman of Microsoft AI predicts that most white-collar work could be automated within the next decade. What we are talking about, therefore, is the possibility that AI and automation could displace tens of millions of workers in the United States from their current employment. We're already seeing early signs of this transformation, with declining employment in AI, exposed occupations, and growing difficulty for young people entering the workforce. If machines can perform most economically valuable work better than humans, and that is the goal, that machines will be able to do the job you are doing better than you are doing. If that happens, pretty simple question: what happens to the workers? How do people earn a living? How do they support their families? And how do programs like Social Security and Medicare survive without a stable tax base? People are not working, they're not paying taxes. And let me ask a very simple question that is on the minds of millions of Americans. How will workers who lose their jobs find new employment if there are no jobs available? What happens to the over 6 million truck drivers, cab drivers, rideshare drivers, and bus drivers if virtually all transportation is conducted through driverless vehicles, which under present terms seems likely to happen? What happens to the young college graduates who today going out looking for an entry-level job, but that job is not there? And let me say this, maybe from personal experience. I have seen this before, and the American working class has seen this process play out before. In the 1990s, the working class of this country was told by the corporate world, by the elites, by the corporate media, don't worry about unfettered free trade. My God, NAFTA, PNTR with China, it is going to create millions and millions of good-paying jobs. Man, Democrats, Republicans, corporate executives, everybody came together. Free trade, going to be the best thing that ever happened to American workers. Well, not quite. What happened, in fact, is that thousands and thousands of factories in this country were shut down. And what happened is that millions of workers lost their jobs. So we have seen this play out in the past. But when we talk about AI and robotics, we're not just talking about the economy. AI is already reshaping how we as human beings relate to each other. According to a recent poll by Common Sense Media, 72% of American teenagers say they have used AI for companionship, and more than half do so regularly. What does it mean for young people to form friendships with AI and become more and more lonely and isolated from other human beings? Everybody understands we have a major mental health crisis for our young people right now. I fear that AI could make it even worse. And then when we talk about what's going on, we also have to talk about privacy. Larry Ellison, second richest person on earth who's gobbling up a lot of the media in this country, who is a major investor in AI, predicts an AI-powered surveillance state is coming where, this is Larry Ellison, major investor, this is what he says, where citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that is going on, end quote. That's your phone calls, your texts, your emails, the websites that you visit, it will be recorded if we continue the current trends. Further, AI is undermining American democracy. The rise of deep fakes, where you have very convincing fake images. It happened to me. I don't know if it happened to you. All right. Where they had me selling some rebates or something like that. Looked very good. Almost convinced me, but it wasn't me. We're seeing fake videos, fake audios. What happens when a day before the election, somebody who looks like the candidate gets up and says something outrageous and people believe it? If people cannot trust what they see and hear, informed decision-making becomes nearly impossible. It will become harder and harder to distinguish between truth and untruth. There's also, in what we're seeing now, a significant environmental cost. AI requires enormous computing power, driving the expansion of energy and water-intensive data centers, increasing electricity demand, and potentially deepening reliance on fossil fuels in the midst of a climate crisis. Finally, and let me say this, and I know some people out there may still think this is science fiction, but it ain't. I have talked to some of the leading scientists and most knowledgeable people in the world about the potential existential threats that AI brings to the human race, including Geoffrey Hinton. Some of you may know that Dr. Hinton, who is a Nobel Prize winner in physics, he's considered to be the godfather of AI. He's worked on this thing for decades. They have cautioned us that AI could soon surpass human intelligence and operate independently beyond our control. And if that happens, what they acknowledge is it poses a profound threat to the very survival of the human race. So, what is happening in Washington right now in response to all of these enormous concerns? Well, we learned just today that Donald Trump has appointed a commission which is made up of the very people who are going to financially benefit from AI and robotics, including some of the wealthiest people in the world, like Mr. Ellison, Mr. Zuckerberg, and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. And needless to say, there is no representation on that commission of workers or environmentalists or consumers. And that is why, in my view, we need a very different approach. Across the country, communities are already pushing back against the unchecked expansion of data centers. More than 100 localities have enacted moratoriums or restrictions, and states are beginning to take action as well. Importantly, and this is a very important point, leaders within the AI industry have called for a pause. The guys who know the most about the threats of the development of AI and robotics, they have called for a pause. In 2023, just about 3 years ago, over 1,000 experts, including Elon Musk, called for AI labs to, quote, immediately pause for at least 6 months, end quote. And if such pause were not enacted, and clearly a pause was not enacted, they called on governments, quote, to step in and institute a moratorium. They understood what is at stake. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I understand what is at stake. That is why today we are announcing legislation to impose a moratorium on the construction of new AI data centers until strong national safeguards are in place to ensure that AI is safe and effective. That means the government reviews and approves AI products before they are released. Further, that the economic gains of AI and robotics will benefit ordinary Americans and not just the billionaire owners of the industry. Further, that AI data centers do not increase electricity or utility prices, harm communities, or destroy the environment. Importantly, this legislation would also impose a ban on the export of AI chips to any country without such protections, including China. A moratorium will give us time to understand the risks, time to protect working families, time to defend our democracy, and time to ensure that this technology works for all of us, not just the few. So, with that, let me now introduce the Congresswoman from New York, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you, Senator. First and foremost, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to Senator Sanders for bringing us together today to introduce this critical legislation. Within just a matter of short years, AI has become often forcibly integrated into many aspects of American existence, into our doctor's offices, our government, and oftentimes to the detriment of working people. Last year alone, AI was responsible for over 54,000 layoffs nationwide. And when we talk about those jobs, it's not just a number. These are industries, these are communities, these are families. You know, just a few short years ago, Sam Altman came before Congress. And in a direct plea, he begged us to regulate this industry. He said that these tools were under no circumstances ready, nor should they be integrated into weapons of war. That we must impose severe regulations immediately to prevent mass layoffs and to ensure that any productivity that comes of this industry can benefit working people. 3 short years later, none of that has happened, and in fact, in many cases, the opposite has happened. I'll start with another quote from Sam Altman, who said 10 years ago, "AI will probably lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, there will be great companies created with serious machine learning." While I'm happy that Mr. Altman is responsible on his end of the deal, you know, he has his responsibilities on the company side, our responsibility is to take care of people. And that is what we're here to do today. Unfortunately, the leaders of this industry have repeated time and time again that they view working people as an endless, untapped market to be manipulated and exploited, that they would sell our country out if it meant that they could turn a profit. And it is no surprise that in the 4 years since ChatGPT was released, we have seen AI deployed at a massive scale to create Big Brother-like surveillance. Every day, Americans are seeing videos of ICE agents waving phones into crowds, threatening that if they use their First Amendment rights, U.S. citizens using their First Amendment rights, that they will be added to some vague database that the American people have not consented to nor are knowledgeable about. Companies like Palantir are mining endlessly the data and privacy of the American people, keeping track of everything that they say and do, and sending it all to a militarized and centralized government. When you take the subway, when you share a TikTok, when you talk to your Alexa at home, they are collecting your data and figuring out new ways to weaponize it. And now they are using AI tools to automate this so that it is not only pervasive, but that it is effortless. We must sound the alarm now. And because of this surveillance of the American people is not going to stop, we must stop it. All of this harm has occurred not in spite of, but because of the absence of federal legislation to regulate AI. This is not my first bill around AI, and I can tell you that it is extremely discouraging to see how even the most minute efforts to protect people at some of the smallest and most basic level, like trying to prevent AI-generated child pornography, is still combated, oftentimes by many people here on the Hill and throughout industry. In this story, currently, the story of AI is a story of corruption. It is fueled and funded by the same multi-billion-dollar corporations lobbying politicians to sit back and do nothing while they harm our communities. In fact, one of the largest explosions of super PAC and outside funding is by the AI industry. And for years, Congress has enabled this permission structure, a permission structure that allows billionaires like Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel to be trusted to regulate themselves under the guise of, quote, American innovation. And what are they asking for now? Endless energy. These companies are now so desperate to profit off of the AI boom that they are racing to construct thousands of giant AI data centers and jacking up the utility costs of everyday Americans to pay for it. These data centers power thousands of high-intensity computer chips that are processing at all times and require massive amounts of energy to operate. Just one hyperscale data center consumes the same amount of energy in 1 second as 100,000 households. Because of the massive amounts of energy they use, power and water utility companies must build multi-billion-dollar infrastructure to keep up with the demand. And these companies are not paying for their own energy infrastructure. People's energy bills around the country are skyrocketing in order to pay for these AI data centers for them. In the last 5 years, Americans who live near data centers saw their electric bills increase over 267% each month. We are talking about a monthly increase from $80 a month to $294 a month. Working people are already living paycheck to paycheck in some states off of wages as low as $7.25 an hour, another federal minimum wage that Congress also refuses to raise. They simply cannot afford another increase to their monthly bills. And this results in people cutting corners whenever they can to keep the lights on, whether it's skipping meals or rationing their insulin. And while the American people are suffering, big tech continues to demand more. More data centers, more energy, more data collection, more American jobs replaced by AI, all on the feet of the American people to pay. And across the country, Democrats, Republicans, and independents are standing up. People are standing up to big tech and saying no to these data centers being built in their own communities. More than 100 local communities across 12 states have already enacted local moratoriums on data centers, and Congress itself has a moral obligation to stand with them and stop big tech from ruining their communities. Our legislation in the House and the Senate would hit the brakes on construction of new data centers until we address several of the key areas of harm AI poses. Our bills learn from our lack of regulation following the similar rise regarding the internet and demands a new approach to AI, one that protects the American people from big tech's egregious overreach, one bound by our shared commitment over those who wish to patent it, one that centers prosperity for the many over exorbitant profits for the very few. Thank you.
Okay, fire away. By the way, we're just going to take questions on AI. Yes, who are you?
Brian Messer, Business Insider. One of the most common critiques that comes up when this idea of moratorium is raised is that we're in an AI race with China, and that slowing down the progress of AI development in any way would give China an advantage, whether that's economic, national security. I'm curious, when that critique is raised to you, what do you say to that? Is that something you're concerned
Well, I think the good news here, and it's not widely known, is there are a number of Chinese scientists who share the same concern that American scientists are worried about. And that is, if we don't get a handle on AI, there are going to be enormous existential consequences. So I think in a sane world, what happens is the leadership of the United States sits down with the leadership in China and leadership around the world to work together so that we don't go over the edge and create a technology which could perhaps destroy humanity. But I would say there are Chinese scientists fairly high up in the government who share those concerns. We've got to immediately, with a sense of urgency, bring those people together. Anything you wanted to add to that?
I mean, I think the concern there is easily remedied by passing protections for people. We need to sort out energy sources. Once these companies can be on the up and up, providing their own energy, building out and investing in the infrastructure, refusing to free ride off of the American people, then we can continue to develop and explore this technology. I don't think that this is about a denialism of science or American competitiveness, but it is about an integration of protection of the American people instead of allowing this to happen at their expense.
And furthermore, this legislation will prohibit the export of chips to China and other countries. Yes, sir. You are.
Chase Williams with Fox Business. You mentioned 267% electric bills up each month. The administration has taken some steps to remedy these concerns. I wonder what you make of their actions. My second question for both of you is, do either of you guys use artificial intelligence in your everyday lives?
So, in terms of the impact that it's having, I think we just need to ask everyday people on if they're feeling the effects of that. I think as much as I personally have differences with this administration, I would want them to be successful in reducing the energy bills of American people, but people aren't feeling it. It's not working. In New York City alone, there are some families that are getting electric bills that are $600 a month, as high as some people were paying in rent not too long ago before our housing costs skyrocketed as well. So I don't think those efforts are working on behalf of the administration. As far as AI, I do not regularly integrate it into my daily life, but I know many people do. I think our job tends to be a little bit more, for me, a lot of my job is quite writing based, and I like to do my own. Thank you.
Very old-fashioned.
I'm old-fashioned that way.
To answer the question, we have looked at AI. We did a chat with Claude recently, but I don't use it on a regular basis. Other questions? Anyone else? Yes.
Igor with Huffington Post. Senator, do you think the Democratic Party is taking the threat of AI seriously enough? And can you talk a little bit about AI's influence in elections? They spend a lot of money in.
Good. Thank you. No, I don't think the Democratic Party leadership is taking this issue anywhere near as seriously as it should. We need to develop a sense of urgency here. The economic impacts are going to be enormous. The impacts on our children will be enormous. And again, there is literally an existential threat to the existence of the human race. Now you tell me, do you think that leadership here on either side of the aisle is saying, whoa, we better get moving on this thing? The answer is no. And the second point, the question you're raising that the Congresswoman mentioned, let us be clear. Why is Congress not moving aggressively? Well, maybe it has something to do with 150 million and more that is coming in to Congress in campaign contributions and in super PACs. When you have a class of people who are multi-billionaires spending a few $100 million on elections is chicken feed, okay? And that is what they are doing. So what they're saying to members of Congress and candidates, you're going to stand up to us? Well, guess what? There's going to be a $20 million ad campaign coming tomorrow starting against you. That's the reality. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So there's been said that the data centers and the chip makers and the app makers have kind of created this circular, loan and business basically, and that it's created a bubble, and by pulling out of it, we could have serious economic consequences. How do we pull out of that? And another question is, what do you make of Claude?
Your first question, it's an important question. It's a little bit different than what we're talking about today. You're talking about the possibility of a bubble bursting and having enormous economic impact. I think that's true. But above and beyond that, what we're talking about is a technology, bubble or no bubble, that is going to have a real impact on American society. So you asked me about my chat with Claude. I'll tell you, it was a little bit mind-blowing. You can very easily, and again, I suppose the young people have more familiarity with that than I do. It is amazingly easy to start seeing this entity, this AI agent, or call it what you might, as a human being. And please remember, importantly, AI is only going to get more and more effective in years to come. It's only a relatively few years old. And yet you sit down and you can absolutely, hey, have a nice day. How are you? I'm pretty good. How are you doing? Okay? You can get into that. And I want you to think about what it will mean to a 13-year-old girl who is struggling and having AI as her best friend, or a 15-year-old boy, or whatever it may be. These are real serious dangers. But to answer your question, it is mind-blowing how quickly you can somehow see this as a human agent. Okay, yes?
There's some other ideas that are being floated in the Hill, be it to make it so, as you kind of alluded to, make it so that these companies are paying for their own or producing their own energy. Why not go that route? Why do the moratorium?
Because that's one part of the problem. As the Congresswoman mentioned, you're seeing people now whose electric bills are soaring beyond control. That is an issue that we've got to deal with. But there are other profound issues. So if somehow or another that was put under control and electric bills did not soar, and yet we lost tens of millions of jobs, would we be happy with that? If our kids became addicted to AI agents, would we be happy with that? And I think, once again, I want to get back to the point that some of the founders of this industry, people who know more about it than anybody else in the world, are telling us that within a few years, it is likely that AI will be smarter than human beings, that human beings may lose control over AI with possibly catastrophic impacts. How do you ignore those issues? You tell me. And you asked me a question about what are the Democrats doing? Well, we need a sense of urgency right now to address these issues. Clearly, that is not the case. All right, with that, thank you all very much.